All right, today we're cracking open a 500-year-old cold case. And our subject? It's this absolutely stunning but totally anonymous medieval prayer book. Our mission is to figure out the secret it's been holding about one of Europe's most powerful rulers. So let's get into it. So here's the big question that drives this whole thing. How on earth does a book for private prayer get turned into basically a public billboard for a hunting-obsessed aristocrat? Well, to figure that out, we've got to put on our detective hats and follow the clues hidden inside its beautiful pages. Okay, so this is what we're looking at. Our main piece of evidence, Manuscript Egerton 1146. It was made right around the year 1500, and it's what's called a Book of Hours, basically a personal prayer book. For about 150 years, it just sat in the British Museum's collection, totally gorgeous, but completely unresearched. There's no family crest, no owner's name, nothing. It was a ghost, a beautiful puzzle just waiting for someone to solve it. So where do we even start? Well, our investigation kicks off with the weirdest part of the whole book, the calendar. Now, calendars in these books are pretty standard, but this one is something else entirely. It's our first major clue that we're dealing with something very, very different here. See, your typical Book of Hours calendar would show what they called the labors of the months. You know, peasants farming, nobles having big feasts, stuff that fits the season. But in this manuscript, oh no, every single month, from January to December, is all about hunting. No farming, no parties, just the hunt. This isn't just a hobby, folks. This is a full-blown obsession. And it's not just any kind of hunting. The pictures focus on what were known as the beasts of venery, the absolute noblest animals you could hunt. According to the fancy hunting manuals of the day, chasing these animals was a real test of your skill and, your aristocratic breeding. And that tells us something huge. This isn't about getting food. This is 100% about broadcasting your elite status. And wow, the level of detail is just insane. If you look closely at these scenes, you'll see they aren't just pretty pictures. They are super precise, technically accurate guides to every single stage of the hunt, from finding the tracks to making the final kill. So our mystery patron wasn't just a fan. This person was an absolute expert. This expertise even covers these really complex rituals, like something called the Curie, which was the big ceremony where they rewarded the hunting dogs. The book shows it step by step. The stag is killed, it's butchered, they mix up this concoction of entrails, blood, and bread right on the animal's hide. And then, with horns blaring, the dogs get their feast. It's an amazing illustration of how, for the aristocracy, the hunt was pure theater. All right, so clue number 1. Our mystery patron is a total hunting fanatic. Now, let's move on to our next set of clues. For this, we're going to look in the margins of the manuscript. The decorative borders on each page. And trust me, they are crawling with all sorts of strange and wonderful things. And this is where things get really weird, because the margins are a total contradiction. On one page, you've got these incredible drawings of plants like this alpine larkspur, and it's so accurate it could be in a science textbook. But then on another page, you get this, the mythical barnacle goose tree. Yep, back in medieval Europe, people actually believed this plant literally grew geese from its fruit. I'm not making this up, a goose tree. So you have to ask, right, what kind of person pays for a book that has both super detailed botanical studies and popular folklore about a goose tree? This bizarre mix gives us this incredible peek into the mind of our patron. They were clearly fascinated by the real natural world, but also completely captivated by the myths and legends of their day. And that level of specific detail, that's another clue for us. Take this bird, for example. It's a red-legged partridge. Now, experts will tell you that finding this particular bird in a medieval manuscript is incredibly rare. So its inclusion here, that's not random. It's a choice. It tells us our patron had deep, specialized knowledge of wildlife. They knew their stuff. Okay, let's take a step back and look at what we've got. A deep obsession with hunting, expert-level knowledge, a fascination with both real nature and myths, and a focus on rare, specific animals. It's time to put all these pieces together and start narrowing down our search. Now, this is where the detective work gets really clever. So the specific list of saints' days that are celebrated in a Book of Hours is called its use. And it's basically a geographical fingerprint, because different cities honored different local saints. And after a whole lot of careful analysis, scholars figured out that the use in our manuscript is a perfect match for the religious tradition of one place, the German city of Worms. So boom, we've got a location, Worms. Now, let's add that to another clue we have. A lot of the landscapes in the pictures look an awful lot like the Austrian Tyrol, with those very distinct mountains. So, Worms and the Tyrol. You put those two together, and we are smack dab in the middle of the Holy Roman Empire around the year 1500. Our list of suspects just got way, way shorter. Okay, the evidence has led us to a specific time, a specific place, and a very, very specific profile. Now, it's time to unmask our prime suspect. Could this intensely personal book really have belonged to one of the most famous people of the era? Everybody meet Holy Roman Emperor Maximilian I. And just look at how perfectly the profile fits. He was called the Last Knight, an image he worked very hard to create. He was a famously obsessive hunter, and, this is crucial, he had deep political ties to both the city of Worms and the Tyrol, which just happened to be his favorite hunting spot. And on top of all that, he was a master of propaganda, using art to make himself look good. And this quote really sums up his whole deal. Maximilian wasn't just a ruler, he was basically his own brand manager. His life's work was to create his own legend, mixing up fact and fiction to create this epic story that starred, well, himself. A prayer book filled with heroic pictures of him doing his favorite thing, that is perfectly in character. But here it is, the final killer piece of evidence, the smoking gun. If you look really closely at all 12 of those hunting scenes in the calendar, you start to realize it's not just some generic nobleman. It's the exact same man every single time. And he's clearly identifiable by his distinctive long reddish gold hair. The artist is showing us a very specific person. And who is this person? Take a look at this official portrait of Emperor Maximilian from 1496. There it is, the same long, flowing golden hair. It was his signature look, a feature he was clearly very proud of. The man in the prayer book is the emperor. Case closed. So when you get right down to it, this manuscript was never just about prayer. It was a statement piece, a private book designed to project a very public image. Maximilian, the heroic hunter, master of the wild, the last knight. It's basically a 16th century masterpiece of personal branding. And that just leaves you with one last thought, right? What does it all mean when the lines between piety and propaganda get this blurry? When a book of private prayer becomes a stage for public myth-making, it kind of feels like we're at a turning point in history, an era where crafting a legendary image might just be becoming its own form of prayer.